Good morning. The State Board of Education meeting will now come to order. Denise, will you please call the roll?
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
John Witzel?
Yes.
Commissioner Bloomstead?
Yes.
All present.
Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Information regarding the Open Meetings Act is posted on the east wall of this room on the south side of the door. Live web streaming will be available through the State Board of Education website, www.education.ne.gov/stateboard. Board members, please remember to engage your microphones when speaking and turn them off when you are finished. And please turn off personal cell phones. Thank you. First item is approval of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the September 1st and 2nd, 2016 meetings?
So move.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, Denise, please call the roll.
John Witzel?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, next we'll move to approval of agenda. Commissioner, are there any recommended changes for today's agenda?
I don't have any changes for today's agenda.
Is there a motion to approve today's agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, Denise, please call the roll.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
John Witzel?
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. Next we'll move into our public comment period. We have had a request for 2 individuals for special appearance, and they have been granted permission. And then we do have quite a few requests for our 5-minute public comment period. So we will start with those who have requested the 10 minutes. The first is Mary Bell Avery. Good morning. So you have been granted a special appearance to comment, and you will have 10 minutes.
Thank you.
So
And
good
I have
morning.
copies of my comments.
Denise can.
Thank you.
We're working on the 10-minute
We'll watch it.
time.
Okay.
I'll do it the old fashioned.
And
Okay.
I need to push a button here, is that correct?
There should be a button right in the middle.
Did it light up?
Well, it was lit up
Okay,
red.
then it's ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you very much. My name is Mary Bell Avery, and I am here to support your adoption of the Nebraska Physical Education Standards. First, I'd like to share a little bit about myself. I was born, raised, and educated in North Carolina. I share that with you so that you understand where my accent and my name are from. I have been a proud Nebraska resident since I accepted a position at Creighton University in 1984. So after 31 years of life as a Tar Heel, I've now lived for 32 years as a Husker. I am now in my 2nd year of retirement following 26 years, with Lincoln Public Schools. 5 of those years were as an elementary physical education teacher, and the last 21 years as the district curriculum specialist for health and physical education. Currently, I serve as a member of the board of directors of SHAPE America. The acronym SHAPE stands for the Society of Health and Physical Educators. This is the national professional association that sets the standard for health and physical education. My experience also includes serving as president of the Nebraska Association for Health and Physical Education. So I have been active at both the state and the national levels of the physical education profession for over 30 years. I hope that knowing a little bit more about me gives you a better idea of my qualifications for strongly supporting the adoption of the Nebraska Physical Education Standards. I've been honored to serve as a consultant for the development of these standards. I was also a member of the writing team that developed the Nebraska Essential Learnings for Physical Education, which these standards will replace. In addition, I have extensive experience working with the national standards for physical education and served as a co-author of the assessments of the national standards. There are three major reasons that I believe you should adopt these Nebraska physical education standards that are before you today. Reason number one, when Nebraska students master these standards, they will have achieved physical literacy. Number two, these standards provide the framework for high-quality school physical education. And number three, these standards support Nebraska schools in providing their students with the knowledge, skills, and confidence to be physically active for life. I'd like to elaborate just briefly on each of those reasons. Reason number one, when Nebraska students master these standards, they will have achieved physical literacy. The term physical literacy is defined as, quote, the ability, confidence, and desire to be physically active for life, end quote. The Nebraska physical education standards, while patterned after the national standards for physical education, have been developed to reflect the unique needs of Nebraska students. In order to achieve physical literacy, students must be successful in 5 different areas which are embodied by the standards. The first area of success needed to achieve physical literacy is that students learn the skills necessary to participate in a variety of physical activities. And by this, we're talking about motor skills such as jumping rope, skipping, throwing, catching, shooting a basketball, kicking a football, serving a tennis ball, lifting weights, dancing. You get the idea. The second area of success needed for physical literacy is that students know the implications and the benefits of involvement in various types of physical activities. This is knowledge such as how to participate safely in physical activity, strategies and tactics for team sports, the benefits of being physically active. The third area of success needed for physical literacy is to participate regularly in physical activity. So we want to be sure our students develop good physical activity habits. The fourth area is to be physically fit. And by this, we're talking about a level of fitness necessary for good health. And the final fifth area needed for physical literacy is that students value physical activity and its contributions to a healthful lifestyle. We want to help them develop an appreciation of physical activity and how it can keep them healthy. My second reason for asking you to adopt these standards today is that they provide the framework for high-quality school physical education. The Nebraska Physical Education Standards define what a student should know and be able to do as the result of a highly effective physical education program. Nebraska school districts can use these standards to develop or revise existing standards, frameworks, and curricula. These standards are up to date and in line with current research regarding curriculum, instruction, and assessment in physical education. Unlike the previous Nebraska Essential Learnings for Physical Education, these standards include specific grade level indicators that clearly describe the recommended content for a quality physical education curriculum. And my third reason asking you to adopt these standards today is that they will support Nebraska schools in providing their students with the knowledge, skills, and confidence to be physically active for life. The Nebraska Physical Education Standards will be a valuable tool for teachers, principals, curriculum specialists, curriculum leaders, and superintendents to use in planning curricula, designing units and lessons, and assessing and teaching and tracking student progress. For those who might question the value of physical education in the schools, these standards provide the information needed to understand quality physical education and to hold programs accountable for student learning. In closing, I would like to thank each of you for the work that you do on behalf of Nebraska's students. I am confident that by adopting these physical education standards, you will add another high-quality educational resource to your list of achievements during your tenure on this board. It was a pleasure for me to be a part of this effort, and I would also like to commend Jelaine Hill, her great assistant, Patsy Schald, and Corey Epler for their outstanding leadership in bringing this document to you today. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another request that has been granted, and so Lacey Peters, you will have 10 minutes. Good morning.
Good morning. So, my name is Lacey Peters. I currently teach aquatic-based physical education courses in health sciences at Westside High School. Previously, I was a health and physical education teacher at the middle school level as well. I had the pleasure of working on the standards writing group for the high school-based courses, and I would like to provide testimony today on behalf of physical education teachers and SHAPE Nebraska, which is the Society of Health and Physical Education, in support of the new state physical education standards. I'm sure everyone here has some form of a memory of their physical education experiences, whether it was positive and you remember how great of a rope climber you were, or it was that you're really glad it's over and it was more negative. Either way, those memories support the need for these new standards. The positive memories most likely are due to a passionate physical education teacher who created an environment that showed kids how to be active and how to have fun while doing it. While others, those negative memories, can look at these standards and wish that their physical education teachers then had them to go by. Kindergarten through 12th grade, these standards provide a timeline, some form of guidance for a physical education teacher to add his or her own creativity to teach the necessities. These standards do not tell what must be taught and how, but provide a developmentally appropriate outline for our physical education programs to then adopt and utilize. The skill progression and career-ready training allows for students to develop and evolve their movement into lifelong activities while learning how to demonstrate good sportsmanship at the same time. The elementary standards focus more on the gross and fine motor development, while middle school standards further build on those skills and integrate them into game, play, or group activities with tactics and strategies then incorporated in. While the high school core standards allow for the skills, strategies, and tactics to be taken to the next level. So this could be in a different setting, such as swimming, or it could be more officiating or life skills and creating their own training programs. The new standards act as a backbone for the skeleton of physical activity to be built upon by all districts, schools, and class sizes. While writing the Nebraska state standards, input was provided from Class D to Class A physical education teachers and/or administrators. A variety of courses and methods of exercise are important to provide youth so they can best discover at least one form of physical activity that they enjoy and are comfortable continuing throughout their lifetime. Example activities such as outdoor pursuits, recreational activities, individual and team games, calisthenics, cross-training, swimming, and international games, to just name a few, are shared throughout the standards document as ideas for the teachers or school. Within these activities, sportsmanship, teamwork, some nutrition, that obviously elaborates on health education, and injury prevention through stretching, warm-ups, nutritional aspects, and containing fluids throughout, as well as creativity are incorporated. In middle school, the standards encourage terminology and the principles of exercise to be taught. This information will allow students to better understand what exercise does for them, as well as how long, at what intensity, and what type of exercise is important for their health. The high school course-based standards then elaborate on that knowledge by providing a broad spectrum of physical activity methods and more personalized learning opportunities. The focus is to equip children with the tools to incorporate physical activity into their lifestyle and maintain it throughout their lives. Career education, as you guys know, uses course-based standards at the high school level. And as a new health sciences teacher, I was thrown into the mix of teaching new classes that were unfamiliar to me. Through the health sciences career clusters, 2 of the courses in those standards are courses that I teach. And those guidelines, those standards, are what help me to pull them aside and create units based off of the course-based standards. So it is understood that not every school or school district will be able to implement the full list of high school courses that we have provided in the physical education course standards, but saying to do so was not our intent at all. The courses chosen are those offered and taught within the state already. Through creating the standards this way, it will allow schools to evaluate their current programs, resources, and facilities to see if they can implement a new course or new curriculum within the courses they currently have. The suggested activities mentioned before are also just that, suggestions or ideas teachers can adapt and apply. As a past middle school health and physical education teacher as well, I strongly support the new physical education state standards. They truly support what we as physical educators do in the classroom. The full K-12 document promotes quality physical education and lifelong physical activity. These standards focus on sincerely educating kids on how to be active while doing so safely. Whether it's learning to land with your legs bent to absorb the impact, or progression and rest incorporated into a fitness program that they create for themselves. It allows choice, teaches accountability, and promotes K-12 progression within a district. We, physical educators, need these standards not only for our students, but to also raise awareness of what we truly do in the classroom. These standards do not allow anyone to simply roll out the ball. Thank you for allowing me to speak today and listening to the importance of approving the Nebraska Physical Education Standards.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to our regular public comment period. We have several, I think 5 or 6 individuals who have requested for 5 minutes. So I will start through the list, and we start with Deb Andrews. Good morning, Mrs. Andrews.
Good morning.
We're seeing if we've got the timer fixed.
What I will tell you is I'll try to give 1 minute and time. If we get to that point, I'll give you a 1 minute warning. So
At 4.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, and my microphone is on?
The
Sounds
microphone's
like?
on, but ignore the clock, it looks like. So,
Oh,
thank you. Good morning.
my name is Deb Andrews. For 20 years, I have watched and listened as citizens concerned about our failure to properly educate children have pleaded, backed by the research, for you to adopt effective reform of reading and math curriculum and instruction. Instead, the board, the department, and school districts have doubled down on learning failure. For decades, just about 1/3 of Nebraska students are proficient at reading and math, the foundation necessary for reason, logic, and all higher level learning. Public education is organized to create crises all across our nation. Suicides, drug overdoses, and abuse of prescription drugs are increasing at alarming rates. Homicides are spiking across the country. The ensuing chaos requires more and more unionized government intervention. Failure pays. Black Americans' concern that white folks intentionally work to keep them down is accurate. 45 years ago, employed with the Department of Labor, I struggled to place minority youth in the trades apprenticeship programs. It was no secret the unions did not welcome minorities to join the trade unions. My one success at placing an African American in the Glazier apprenticeship program was a disaster for the young man. Our last meeting is seared into my memory. He looked at me with anguish on his face and simply said, "They don't want me here." Nothing has changed. The union controls education, rules, laws, curriculum, and instruction. 22% of black children in Nebraska are proficient at reading. Just 12% of black children in Nebraska are proficient at math. In Oregon, I witnessed black Principal Judy Bryant took over a reconstituted school and discovered teachers do not know how to teach reading. She sent the teachers for training in phonics. All the poor minority kids in that school learned how to read well and quickly. Judy won national awards for that student's success, and the district forced her out of her job. The superintendent, Vicki Phillips, who facilitated Bryant's removal, was hired by the Gates Foundation to distribute education grants. As a member of an education legislation bill drafting committee, I witnessed the union gut a bill that would have benefited poor and minority children because the union stated at every meeting we had they didn't want the school to have any empty seats. Gutting the bill prevented poor and minority children from attending college classes a time or two during the week. Those children who begin to lose their minds and their self-control due to lack of mental engagement in the classroom are now sent to compliance schools. Lincoln has 3. As the chaos increases, pat yourselves on the back. This has been the end goal for decades, as evidenced by the failing scores. The system has failed all children, but black children more than any other group. It is well known to you a child not taught reading and math has been crippled for life. We all pay the price for this fraud. Special note to the union in the room, I will work tirelessly to empty those classroom seats and provide education dollars directly to parents and help save their children as I saved my own, as well as help save my country. They're called Nebraska Academic Savings Accounts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews. Next, we have Dr. Bob Browner. Good morning. You will have 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm representing the Nebraska Medical Association and my own organization, Partnership for Healthy Lincoln, in our comments. I was part of the committee that reviewed the standards. We basically support the content of the curriculum. We think it's very well written, but we do think there's 2 critical pieces that are missing. The first is defining the amount of time to teach the curriculum. If you don't, the best curriculum in the world is not helpful if you don't have enough time to teach it. Within our state, there are schools that have PE every day. There are some schools that have PE as infrequent as every 6th day. And so I think that there need to be at least some standards on the recommended minutes. I have included in your packet 2 references. One is from my organization, Institute of Medicine, where there are standards, for example, 150 minutes of PE in elementary schools. I've also included an example of a neighboring state, Kansas, which also has this as a definition between basic amount and advanced, for example. And so I'd encourage you to consider at least having a recommendation for a minimum curriculum time within the standards. The second thing we think needs to be added is fitness testing, which is essentially the ultimate outcome of physical education. We want to see that there are results in fitness, because that's one thing that's out there. It is actually very well measurable. Probably the gold standard right now is something called the fitnessgram, which a lot of our schools do use. This is what we use in Lincoln Public Schools, and I've included some references, partly because the reason that is the gold standard is because that's the measurement most connected with academic achievement. And so at the bottom, I've actually put our last year's results with the kids who are passing that fitness test versus the ones who are not, how they did in math, reading, and science. I've also included an example from Illinois where they actually do annual fitness testing. That is one of the requirements in Illinois, is that they use the fitnessgram to test how fit the kids are. And the last thing that I included as a reference is actually Dr. Maribel Avery and I published an article in Journal of Pediatrics a couple of years ago showing that the connection works, and it also holds regardless of race, ethnicity, income, gender, and so it's valid across demographic groups. So that summarizes my comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, we have Jay Sears. You'll have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, I'm Jay Sears, and I work for the Teachers Union in the state of Nebraska. I want to address 2 issues for you this morning. First of all, the educators of the Nebraska State Education Association thank this board for the way that we do standards in this state, which has involved the teachers in the development of the standards, in the writing of the standards, and also when they are assessed in the development of questions that go into the test. And so thank you for continuing that process and involving the people that are on the front lines, doing the teaching of all of our standards in that process. The other thing I'd like to talk to you about, and it's linked to one of your business items about the acceptance of a nutrition grant from the Federal Department of Education. Yesterday I placed at your places, I think I forgot you, Maureen, but you can have one this afternoon if you come by, or you can have mine. Yesterday was the announcement in the state of Nebraska that went out to all media about a partnership for breakfast in the classroom, and what you have in your bright yellow and orange brochure are things, or basically a toolkit for school districts to apply for a grant that is coming from the Walmart Foundation, a $7.5 million grant that will be distributed among school districts in 10 states, and Nebraska is fortunate enough to be one of those 10 states. And one of our partners from the National Education Association is the National Education Association Foundation, which provides all kinds of grants. And there is a partnership that is supporting and promoting breakfast in the classroom. A number of our school districts take part in breakfast for our students. A number of them, because of facilities or lack of support or facilities to serve breakfast, have to do it in the cafeteria. And as most of you are aware, many of our school districts, kids ride buses for a number of minutes, hours, seems like days for some of them. And so when they get to school, you know, depending upon the bus schedule, it's time to start class, not time to grab a healthy meal that they didn't get because they got up at 6 in the morning and got on the bus and traveled. So one of the things that our organization is doing in partnership with the Breakfast in the Classroom Partnership is to publicize that this grant is available. A number of our districts where there is 40% or more poverty are eligible, and they're already doing breakfast programs. Most of them are not in the classroom, and so what we're looking at is how do you make sure that everybody that comes to that school building has an opportunity for a healthy meal, because we don't all do that. As an example, my healthy meal today was driving through McDonald's to get the whatever the breakfast thing is that I always get along with my Diet Coke. Well, many of our children don't have the opportunity to even drive through McDonald's or have a breakfast. Just getting up and getting to school is a burden for the families and the children and for the school district. And as we know, if my stomach's growling, I don't learn. If I'm not getting a good nutritional meal at least once or twice a day, which our children do in the schools, we aren't doing too well in reading and math, and it's even more difficult, as you were pointed out in the PE standards, to actually do physical education. So I just wanted to bring that out for you and let you know in your districts as schools start to apply. I think it'll be a very useful program to make sure that our children start the day off with a nutritious breakfast and are ready to learn. So thank you very much. And please finish by 10:30 because that's my bet today. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we move to Henry Burke. Good morning, Mr. Burke.
Good morning.
You will have 5 minutes.
Good. Good morning. My name is Henry Burke. Today I will discuss how to build strong state standards. Our goal should be to provide a high-quality K-12 education for all Nebraska students. The best way to accomplish this is to write good Type 1 standards. With good knowledge-based standards, students will receive a high-quality education, test scores will improve, and graduation rates will increase. For the last 3 years, I've been advocating strong standards and a Type 1 education. Education expert Donna Garner has developed terminology that differentiates between a classical education, type 1, and a subjectively assessed education philosophy, type 2. Exemplary education standards must be type 1. Common Core standards and outcome-based education are examples of type 2. In order to have excellent type 1 standards, they need to be explicit, knowledge-based, that is, fact-based, academic, clearly worded, grade level specific, and measurable. If state standards comply with these 6 criteria, teachers will not have to second-guess the standards writers. Teachers will readily understand what must be covered for every grade and for every course. Last week I noticed that the NDE, Nebraska Department of Education, had written a content area standards reference guide. In the reference guide, the parameters for quality standards are measurable, appropriately challenging, connected, clearly worded, scaffolded, and specific. Their list is somewhat like mine. Both lists have 6 parameters or characteristics, and their list has 3 of my parameters. But the Nebraska reference guide is missing 3 of the crucial parameters: knowledge-based, academic, and grade level specific. The 3 parameters are extremely important, and I urge the NDE and State Board to include them in the Nebraska Standards Reference Guide. Why is it important to have knowledge-based or fact-based standards? Without an emphasis on knowledge-based standards, useless fodder is often included in the standards document. Here is one example from the Nebraska English Standards. For grade 2 reading, the Nebraska Standard states, identified topics and/or patterns across multiple literary and informational texts to develop a multicultural perspective. The NDE is asking second graders to identify topics and patterns to develop a multicultural perspective. Like the Common Core standards, the standards writers are promoting informational texts and multicultural discussions. Standards must be knowledge-based or fact-based. By contrast, the Excellent English Success Standards include the following standards for that same grade. Reading, grade 2. Find the subject of a verb. Identify which nouns are singular and which are plural. Identify and use multi-word descriptive adjectives with nouns. If you would like to see examples that illustrate what happens when Nebraska excludes academic and grade level specific parameters, please read my report. If a state really had good standards, it would show up in the national exams. How are Nebraska students doing on the national ACT tests? The simple answer is not very well. According to the latest 2016 ACT report, the percent of students who met college readiness benchmarks declined from 2012 to 2016.
1 minute.
English percentages dropped from 75% to 68% over the period. Mathematics percentages dropped from 51% to 43%. Reading percentages dropped from 59% to 48%. And science percentages increased slightly from 36% to 40%. In 2016, only 28% of Nebraska students met all 4 college readiness benchmarks. Once again, I strongly urge Nebraska to adopt the outstanding English Success Standards. If Nebraska had adopted the English Success Standards, we would now have the best English standards in the country. I recommend that the NDE include the following 3 parameters that are missing from the Standards Reference Guide: knowledge-based, academic, and grade level specific. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Next, we will have Rachel Pinkerton. Good morning, Mrs. Pinkerton.
Good
You will
morning.
have 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm Rachel Pinkerton. I've been coming here regularly for, about 4 years now with LEAP, Liberty Education Advocacy Project. And I'm sharing with you a flyer of
an event that LEAP sponsored along with Black Men United, Nebraska Family Forum, Nebraska Sunshine Project, the Voice Advocacy Center, and Safe Haven Preschool Child Care. You may not recognize all these names, but I think you've had people before you from each of these organizations. And we were pleased to have 5 of the 6 candidates who will appear on the board in the 3 contested OPS races. You may be aware of the current configuration of the board is 9 sub-districts. 5 will be on the ballot, but now 2 are not contested. The Mrs. Gotting is the incumbent whose opponent dropped out, and then Mr. Vargas's replacement is somebody who's new, who doesn't face an opponent. So we had radio personality Tom Becca did a great job moderating, and we got to hear from 5 people, all sincere volunteers such as yourself, who shared why they want to donate their time to serve on the OPS board. I have maps, and it's a little unwieldy. I don't know if you want them, but I can leave them in case anybody wants to see. The maps of these sub-districts are, it's challenging. I am in sub-district 1, and you may be familiar with the incumbent, Yolanda Williams. Now, intuitively, how would you know that you are in that district? That is a pretty jagged district. So if I did have extras from what I printed up for our event, if anybody wants to have one of these 11 by 17 maps of Subdistrict 1, Subdistrict 2, and Subdistrict 7, you would be welcome to those. It turned out to be very timely because, as you are no doubt aware, on the 3rd, the day before our forum, the superintendent, Mark Evans, made the announcement that he is going to retire at the end of the school year. So the new board will have the task of choosing a new superintendent. So we had the opportunity to ask these volunteers who participated what their priorities were for superintendent, as well as some other questions about public-private partnership and how to navigate and not lose transparency when we accept grant money, and some other questions. There was a lot of passion, a lot of good ideas and vision from these folks, and it was pretty exciting. It was a thunderstorm, and just touching to see people come out, and our activists as well. We had multiple people my age and older out in the thunderstorm at night and to come, and I was appreciated Mr. McPherson being there. And so we can say we knew these people when at least 2 and possibly 3 of these individuals will be on the new board. And they were uniquely interested in getting acquainted with us, of course, prior to election time. So that's all I have to share today.
Thank you, Mrs. Pinkerton.
Is there some place I can leave these in case anybody? Okay. No,
Claire,
thanks.
information.
I'd like to thank folks who come, who make the effort to come and address the board, and that you can understand our time limitations that we deal with, and that you are prompt. You traveled here early in the morning to be here. So, and we like the information that comes to us, and thanks for the handouts that come as well. So, appreciate it.
Thank you. That ends our public comment period. We will take a break
Madam Chairman, could I interrupt for just a second? I don't know whether we're going to go into executive session today or there's a plan to do that. Is there a plan to do that?
Not at this.
I'm just wondering, we had several people come and testify on the physical standards, and that's the next item on the agenda.
Yes.
I wonder if we could move to that and then go into a break.
Sure.
Give them a chance to, hear the results of their testimony, and then go to a break.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm game for that. That doesn't change the agenda in any order, any process, so let's just go ahead and go in that direction. We don't have anything with item 5 or with item 6, so the next item on the agenda is item 7 that moves into our action items. And the first item under our action items is under the Teaching and Learning Domain Committee, and we have one item under that committee for action. And so I will ask either Maureen or Glenn from that committee, is there any action relative to item A, approve the Nebraska Physical Education Standards?
I would make a motion that we adopt the Nebraska Physical Education Standards.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt the Nebraska Physical Education Standards. Discussion and comments. Who do I look at? Okay, on this, we'll do this, I think we do this one through me. So
Yeah.
we'll go
Okay.
Lily and then Molly.
As I said earlier, I appreciated the input in regard to the standards that are proposed. I think that we have a quality document that we're putting out to the state. However, as was mentioned, we do not have a recommendation to our 245 school districts the amount of time that should be devoted to this curriculum. And it is something that possibly could come down the road later somehow through our tenant work, making that an issue that should be discussed and possibly be not a mandate, but clearly a recommendation and what benefits the kids the most. And so I appreciate Dr. Reiner making that suggestion. Appreciate the input from Dr. Maribel Avery. And as you can quite tell, I'm quite proud of the input from the folks from Lincoln as well as from West Side. So thank you for your service on this. It's a quality document, but it doesn't mean it's a final document down the road. There might be opportunities, and I believe that you all said that as well. These things can always be updated and with some recommendations to make them even stronger. So, thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Maureen, and we're trying this new process here a little bit. So I do think consistent, so I'm yielding to Maureen, who chairs this committee.
Molly, I think you had your hand up.
I just wanted to comment that I found it interesting when you recalled us, how about your PE classes? What I really like about the standards is they're health related. No matter what your physical fitness level, you can become engaged and participate and feel worthwhile. And also, I really thought it was kind of cute when I was looking in the details that you are doing hip hop and ballroom dancing. So it's really providing a connection for our students that at times they still might want to do ballroom dancing. So, and then in respect for your participation today too, I think your data on fitness relating to performance on cognitive testing is one I really value. So I would endorse Lily's comment that in future discussions in our tenant, I would hope, Maureen, that there is discussion about having a recommendation that we do provide time in our 245 districts. Thank you.
John.
I truly believe our students today and generations to come will greatly appreciate and value the PE standards that we set today. Thank you.
I would just like to add a piece that I'm very, very pleased with these physical education standards, and I hope that some of the further discussion in our tenet as we go down with all of this is that class size become a major part. I am very concerned about some of the class sizes in some of our schools, and I understand that, you know, there are sometimes conditions that don't allow for smaller class size, but I want PE to be every bit, physical education to be every bit as important as any other subject in our schools. Anybody else have anything?
Okay, hearing no other discussion, then we have a motion and a second on the floor. Denise, please call the roll.
Lily Larson.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Witzel.
Yes.
Glenn Flint.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, now we'll take about a 10-minute break, okay? Thanks, everybody. State Board of Education will reconvene. We are under action items under 7. We move to student success and access domain. Is there a motion for option for item A under 2?
I move that we adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 2, Uniform System of Accounting for Nebraska Public School Districts.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
John Witzel?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay, item 2B. Is there a motion? Molly?
I move to adopt proposed revisions to Rule 8, 92 NEC 8, regulations for school finance and budgeting, state funding of educational service units, and learning communities.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
John Witzel?
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, moving on to item 2C. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that we approve the grant the Commissioner the authority to approve a contract with the University of Nebraska for coaching and training services for Step Up to Quality.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
John Witzel?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
8 yes.
Moving on to item 2D. Is there a motion?
I move to grant the Commissioner the authority to approve a contract with the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Child, Youth, and Family Studies to assist NDE in developing and delivering training and technical assistance.
Second.
So motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
John Witzel?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
8 yes.
Next, we move on to item 3, data and continuous improvement, the ad hoc committee, and there is one action item from that committee. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt the use of performance progress reports for schools and districts for the 2015-16 school year under AQuest.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Clarify, we're on 7.3.
Yes.
Thank you. Patricia Tim?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
John Witzel?
Yes.
8 yes.
Item 4 are the action items under the Finance Committee, and we will start with item 4.A. Is there a motion?
Move to grant the Commissioner the authority to approve a contract with Double Line Incorporated for IT services support.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
John Witzel?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
8 yes.
Moving on to 4B. Is there a motion?
Madam President, I move that we grant the Commissioner the authority to approve an amendment for analytical able for the purpose of expanding the scope of psychometric review.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Helpful.
It's a tough
Sorry.
one. Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
John Witzel?
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran?
Yes.
Lily Larson?
Yes.
Glenn Flint?
Yes.
Patrick McPherson?
Yes.
Maureen Nichols?
Yes.
Rachel Wise?
Yes.
Patricia Tim?
Yes.
8 yes.
Moving on to item 4C. Is there a motion?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I move that we grant the Commissioner the authority to approve a contract with Phenom Blue for Phase 1 of website redesign and improvement.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
Lily Larson.
Yes.
Glenn Flint.
Yes.
John Wetzel.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
Moving on to item 4D. Is there a motion?
I move we grant the Commissioner the authority to accept the USDA Food Nutrition Services for fiscal year 2015 to 16 Direct Certification Tier 2 Implementation Grant.
Second.
I'll go with Molly. Sorry, it was tough, but
Okay.
it came in just a little louder. Sorry. So the motion by John, second by Molly. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Glenn Flint.
Yes.
Lily Larson.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Wetzel.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
Moving on to item 4E. Is there a motion?
I move
Good.
that we
Go ahead.
I move that we grant the Commissioner the authority to submit the fiscal year 2016-17 deficit budget request to the State Budget Division.
Second.
Toss a coin.
Oh, boy. We'll go Pat this time.
All right.
So we have a motion by Glenn and a second by Pat. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Let's see. Lily Larson.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Wetzel.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Glenn Flint.
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, moving on to item 8, which is the approval of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make. Go ahead. I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
And I'll second it.
We have a motion by Glenn, and I'll do this time the motion by John, or second by John, to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none. Denise, please call the roll.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Glenn Flint.
Yes.
Lily Larson.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran. John Wetzel.
Yes.
8 yes.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll move on to item 9, and that's our special presentation and discussion. And I will turn it over to the Commissioner we'll set up our special presentation this morning. So, Commissioner.
Yeah, and first of all, we thought it was a good opportunity to reflect a little bit on our work between VR and special ed on how we serve students, and a bit of an opportunity for us to discuss a little bit of how those systems fit together to serve our students across the state. So I'll bring up Mark Schultz and Steve Milliken to start that process. I'm also going to hand around a very nice article with our own Lindy Foley in that article that was published just recently, I think in the last, actually this week sometime, that gives a little bit of a nice story about Lindy's work and our work in workplace accessibility. And it's actually, so you know, October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. And so just a good time for us to be able to chat through some of these topics. So I'll turn it over to the Steve and Mark show, I guess. So.
Okay. Well, we're making this up as we go. So as the Commissioner said, this is Disability Employment Awareness Month. And we have posters that were put out by the Office of Disability Employment Programs at the Department of Labor, and to celebrate the success of individuals with disabilities in the workplace, but officially also to recognize the value of a diverse workforce of all kinds of skills and abilities. So that sounds a little bit like every student every day. That's exactly what it is, and it's a nice way to connect and tie together all the things we're doing in terms of school to work. We have a number of those activities that we're going to talk about in a second, but I wanted to just share a little bit more about the VR services because several of you were able to attend the conference, and I thank you for that. I think it was really almost a great surprise for our staff that, and a recognition of the value of their work. So I appreciate that you were there and attended those sessions. So you got a better idea of the kinds of services and supports that we provide to individuals to help them be successful. So things such as the supported employment services, customized employment, which is really working with the businesses to carve out a job and almost create a job within that business that is to the benefit of the individual with a disability, but also to the business themselves. And oftentimes, and if you sat in on some of those employer panels, they talked about the efficiency then that created within their business and actually resulted in some cost savings to them. So they're starting to recognize the value of that. So articles like the one in Strictly Business are a way for us to reach out to businesses and talk about the value of both the workforce and the services that we provide. So as a part of that conference, we recognized one of our individuals who we assisted with creating a business for our self-employment program. And so we thought it would be a great idea to share that with you today. So I think that's what we'll start with, is to share that video. This individual, I'm not going to tell too much about her at this point, except to say that she was the award recipient for Entrepreneur of Distinction, which we do every year to recognize someone that's been through our program and now has successfully operated a business, is actually giving back to the community, and you'll hear more about that in this video. So. Yeah.
Can you hit play on that for me?
My name is Tana Skarniak. I am from Grand Island, Nebraska, and I actually own my own business. It is TS Preservation Specialist. I do property preservation, so I work on foreclosed homes and homes in bankruptcy. Before I owned my own business, I really couldn't hold down a job. I felt sick all the time. I have major depression and bipolar. I've been diagnosed with major depression since I was 11 years old. I had two dreams when I got diagnosed with major depression. I wanted to own my own home, and I wanted to work full-time.
Nebraska VR is an agency that helps individuals with disability to get and keep a job. We focus on their abilities more than on their disability. We talk about disability in order to plan on it, in order to be able to grow.
So I went into Nebraska VR and I says, I would like to own my own business. And they're like, okay, well, let's look at what we need to do. We met with other business owners and we went over like struggles and high points and low points of our businesses.
I got to know Tana when I was starting with Easter Seals in 2013. I work with Nebraska VR clients that want to start their own business. They partner with us so that we can give them the benefits analysis. It helps them understand how the impact of going back to work will affect their benefits.
The business idea, it was impressive. I think in my whole career, I never see anybody doing it.
They done a feasibility study and they looked at what my competition was. They looked at what my profit and loss would be. They helped me do a business plan. I actually doubled my profit for my first year from what they thought I would make. I was amazed. I didn't think I would do that well. Still, when I get overwhelmed, my mental illness kicks in. And at one point this summer, I had not one house, but two houses to trash out. So I was very overwhelmed.
Tana called me one day and she said, I need some help. So we brought two younger individuals with disability that are helping her to do the work.
It's very rewarding to me that I feel like I've paid it forward a little bit.
She's helping us also to help other individuals with this younger individual with disability to learn the rope how to work.
I know the one gentleman at the end of the day, he always says, "We worked really hard today, didn't we?" And I get to say, "Yes, you did. Thank you very much."
The value of Nebraska VR, wow. They have so many resources and benefits that can help, and Tana's success story is just one of many that is why I do what I do.
As long as I'm helping them to make the difference today, that's the most important thing.
I own my own business and I own my own home. I have accomplished my goals that I have set out to do. And there's still times that I almost go into like a panic because I think this is really not me. I'm not this successful person. And then I have to sit back and think, yes, I am. I'm this successful person, and I've done it with the help of Nebraska VR. I know that I have had to put in a lot of hard work for myself, but I know that if it wasn't for them and their support and their belief that I could make it, that I would not be where I am today.
So this last year we had over 2,000 success stories just like that. So what we're trying to do is develop a series of videos. If you go out to YouTube and just Google Nebraska VR, you'll see there are other videos and success stories out there as well, and trying to feature different types of services and ages and disabilities so that others can see what we're doing and perhaps see themselves in that and the success that they might be able to have as well. It also works well for businesses and being able to, for recruiting individuals and seeing who we have and the skills and capabilities. So one of the, we did share another video the second day that was a collaboration between special education and VR, and that is with our Nebraska Youth Leadership Council. So students and youth who have disabilities and are out serving as peers and mentors to other individuals or students with disabilities in the schools and serving as a role model. And so we've developed these councils across the state, and they're out there doing presentations and advocacy to raise awareness, and so to get them back into VR. And so we thought it was important to talk about this collaboration today because of the individual that was here at the last meeting and testified about his struggles and his dyslexia, and that if you miss those students, and we don't continue working with them, that it's going to be more difficult to be successful later on in life. And so with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, our involvement and presence in schools has been greatly enhanced. We will be out there or in every school, but the amount of time that we'll be out there will probably increase greatly. So so we're going to talk a little bit about those. I know, Steve, you want to?
Absolutely. The new agreement that we're working on, which will get even more specific, I guess, on the role that VR takes in schools, and it's important for us as we look at all students with disabilities and obviously how we transition into the community. It's not a new thing in the sense of all students on IEP, as we begin to look at their future transition and vocational needs and interests at the age of 16, and so that's important for us to be able to do that. Then when we're looking at adults like we just saw, that they're successful as they transition out of our school districts. We serve many students on IEPs and 18 to 21-year-old transition programs, and really in partnerships with VR and other programs, of which you recently saw at the conference, just many things that have gone very well and help students be employable as they move into adulthood. So it's important stuff. So now, with additional agreements at our level, we're going to really be able to hone in on some of those conversations, maybe even better conversations about who's doing what, and to really be able to step it up. And so we're pretty excited about that. So we've had those conversations going on now, actually.
So So we're working together at the state level, and then so what does that look like at the local level? You know, it's so we're working with every district to come up with an agreement about our roles and responsibilities, and we hope to be at the IEP meetings so that we can talk about that transition from school to work, whether it be to post-secondary, more training and education, or directly to a career. And that expectation should be there for every student. And so we are working not only with the schools, but other systems and our agencies. So Developmental Disabilities has agreed that for those who are eligible, they will have service coordinators there. Even though they can't provide any financial assistance, they will be part of that planning process early. And that will help us in that transition to their services later on. So we've made a commitment for those students that are looking to go to work. And in the past, historically, 18 to 21 has really fallen through the cracks. But if they're looking to go to work, we are now saying VR will step up and we will work with you. And as long as you're eligible for DD services, and we can transition you to those services when you age into that system. So we're working through the details of that now, but that's the general consensus. We've met with them, and we've all committed ourselves to making that a reality.
And currently, as we said, currently working on very specific written agreement that gets specific on, in a sense, who does what in those environments. I do want to introduce, speaking of working on the wording, staff that's here. You mentioned Lindy in great work, and then Amy Rohn. Amy Rohn has been recently hired as the Assistant Director of Special Education for us. Amy is working on the very specific wording of this agreement, and so that's kind of how that's where we are in the process now. And be able to move forward on that. So appreciate their work.
So I would just mention one more specific project that gives you a good example of what we do, and that's Project Search. So that's a collaboration between the schools and VR and other agencies and a business, where during that last year of school, the student is out there and they go through 3 different rotations of different kinds of jobs, so they gain some work experience and skills, and either are hired by that business at the end of the period, or we can move and transition those or transfer those skills to another job. And that's been very successful. It's a national model. We have 17 of those sites here in Nebraska, and we'll likely add more of those. So it's a great collaboration with the schools.
And the nice thing about Project Search is that it's very, very business-based, if you will. It's totally located at the businesses, and so they're able to really get a feel for the success of that. It's really built. When they happen, they built great relationships with a particular business and a particular high school or school. There's some wonderful things going on within those programs. So, yeah. And Project Search has been it's a national model, so it has been with us for a while.
So,
so thank you. And one of the things I think we wanted to do is really have a discussion. And so if you have questions, a part of this is just really to engage in discussion. And I'm going to take my privilege to ask a question first, then. Sorry, Pat. There you go. And you mentioned, with developmental disability determination and with the transition, one of the things I'm aware of individuals who really struggle with that balance if they are receiving SSI and definitely need the benefits of SSI and typically maybe the Medicaid benefits because they may have certainly some health issues related to their disability or interconnected. Can you help us understand what are the opportunities and how do we figure out how to make systems work well? Because we have individuals who sometimes would like to work and would like to do more, but have almost limitations because of their need for some of the supports through SSI and through Medicaid. You have a solution for that?
I don't know that we have the solution, but we have given that some thought. So we've been working, we've been sitting in on some of the planning that's gone on within the developmental disability system. As you know, they're having to rewrite their waivers, and so they're coming up with new definitions and unbundling services. And so as a part of that, we've had that discussion about benefits analysis because it's so critical to the student and their families making an informed decision about whether to go to work and the impact of going to work and how many hours they might be able to work. So a lot of decisions revolve around that. So within what they're doing in their pre-vocational planning in the DD system, we're hoping that they can do some of that benefits discussion. And if individuals come to us and they're still uncertain, we contract with Easter Seals, who has that experience, and they also have what's called the WIPA grant. And now I'm going to, I don't know if anybody remembers what that acronym stands for, but it's a Social Security grant that comes to the state of Nebraska, and they do the benefit support for individuals in the Social Security system. And they can do that counseling for our individuals. We supplement that grant with our own funds so that they can serve our clients. And so they work with them to identify what the impact is going to be. They can also track their earnings so that we don't put them at risk later on of having to pay money back to Social Security. So that support has to be in place, and we expect that when we start working more with individuals with significant disabilities coming out of school, we're going to have that discussion early and really provide that assistance. So we're trying to build that support into this, that what is going to be a new system for us, essentially, because we have not served that many individuals with developmental disabilities. That system historically has provided any supported employment services, and we've supported it a little bit. But now federal law and our rules and regulations make it pretty clear VR will be the first dollar in on these things. So.
You mentioned when you were talking about school districts working with business, and across greater Nebraska we have a lot of small communities and small school districts. So how are you being able to put that together so that you're not putting someone in a situation where they would have to travel because maybe they don't have the ability to travel, or to find a job more in there? How does all that work?
Yeah. Well, I was joking earlier that when I had a question that I needed to bring Lindy up, I would say, Lindy, come on up. But I won't do that. No, actually, it's not easy. But what we're trying to come up with strategies that will help us with that. So we have what we call business account managers. They don't carry a caseload. Their sole responsibility is to go out and work with businesses to develop relationships. So that even before we have someone that might work or they have a job opening, they understand what we do, how we might be a benefit to them. There are services we can provide to them that don't necessarily involve any of our clients. So that we want to have that relationship and develop some credibility. Yes. Yep. And so we actually have a database, an employer database, where we track those employers which have said, we're willing to work with you. And we may not have an opening now, but at some point, if you have a student that wants some work experience, we're willing to have them come to our business and do that. So, and I think over the last year, Lindy, how many did we add? How many businesses?
We're at about 1,400 right now.
Okay.
And you talk about age 16 or the 18 to 21. Are you doing anything? We're moving back into almost middle school with career and tech education, and getting kids some ideas of what they can do. Are you doing anything younger than that, so that the parents and the kids have some idea of what they may start working towards?
I mean, I think that it depends. It's going to depend on the IEP. Sure. Obviously, the disability. Absolutely, families and schools begin talking about that much earlier, based on what those long-term needs are, as the IEP team is talking. Many, as we get into 16 and then the 18 to 21-year-old, I think it's important to know too, and whether it's be small districts or larger, though, case managers of IEPs within the special ed system. Many have responsibilities of working with local businesses and agencies to tie kids into work employment systems, and joining in partnerships, obviously, with VR and whatever that may be. But even early, like I said, 16, and there are we have connections where there's depending on the community, where there may be a number of work training sites, and so very knowing that long term they're going to be in a vocational environment of some sort. So it's real common, yeah.
What was the elementary school that we first visited? here in Lincoln. McPhee. So when we were out at McPhee Elementary, I was very surprised and very happy to see how much focus they had on career education, even in elementary school there. So I think it's happening, but formally, we can get involved to age 14, depending on if the school has a transition plan in place at that point in time. Otherwise, we're 16 to 21 by law.
Okay. It was Glenn and then John. Okay.
You know, one of the things I'm trying to do is arrange a board field trip over to Reconnect Success with Levon Stennis Williams. And I just wondered if VR or Special Ed has any dealings with them in Omaha.
I'm not familiar with them.
Yeah.
They work with troubled youth and help turn around school.
I'm not familiar with them, but we are doing some work right now with YRTCs in Geneva and Kearney, and looking at how we might be able to be of more service and actually have staff going there on a regular basis.
Special education director at Omaha Public Schools could help us some with that too, as far as get more information about that as well. So, you bet.
Mark, I just want to thank you again for allowing me to attend your conference this week. It was truly outstanding. You gave a great keynote address, and it was just a great atmosphere. I mean, it was good. In regards to Pat's question and your, if you will, mention of CE, I know there's a big partnership collaboration between you and CE, Rich Cott to be exact. And I've got to show you this because you were talking about this as your transition guide. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was relevant in regards to what Pat was talking about, the different school level in regards to what options they have, what opportunities they can explore, and so forth. So, outstanding tool. So.
Is this available on our website?
It's not on the website because of the format, because it's a slide chart. Sure, we can get copies. We can do that. So, yeah, and it's that was kind of like a V8 moment. Thank you. I was like, I should have thought of that right away, because it's one of the best tangible examples of collaboration between us, and actually came as a result of a meeting that we went. It was a joint meeting with special education and VR, and the idea and the concept grew out of that. So. And
special education has shared that document they're talking about statewide, like you're saying, throughout those meetings and conversations. So the content of that is quite good and quite usable. So it's been good.
I think you shared it at Administrator Days also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's correct.
Lily and then Mullen. Are you keeping, say, 5-year out records of folks and the placement and the success of their employment?
Mm-hmm. We have not, but our performance measures are changing. So we're part of a workforce system now with Department of Labor, Adult Education, and we were looking at common performance measures, which we'll look at least that we track individuals a year out, and we'll go out to 2 years and then look at that performance data both on earnings and income, benefits, et cetera, and then also advancement. So as you know, we have the other grant around the career pathways advancement, where we're actually going back to former clients. So we're learning a lot about, are individuals still working in that field, or are they out of work? And if they are, we'll get them back into the program. And we have, I think it's 20-some individuals that we've brought back in and who are going back to school to further their education so they can actually get a better job and better pay, et cetera.
Well,
so
it seems to me, just like the state board looks at standards every 5 years, that you would be looking at least 5 years, and the success, if it was good for only like, 6 months, 9 months, then you would think, no, we need to still do something else. So that.
And we certainly have, within special education, we certainly have some federal requirements on taking a look at our post-school outcomes. So we do have some means of which we do track how kids with disabilities are doing, a few years out. And so we do have that information.
Some of our school districts, Lincoln does follow students as who graduate, what happens to them if they go on to what post-secondary education, and it's worthwhile. And so it's done
Yeah, I would just say we have a little bit of difficulty doing that because we have a fairly mobile population.
Well,
but,
they always say that.
Yeah, but the other...
So you need to set up some kind of way to have a contact, a second person in the family to contact, maybe if that...
yeah, what we've been doing, in which we now have the ability to do that, is to work with unemployment insurance so we can get wage record information and be able to track.
There should be a way to track everybody.
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
but if I can add one more thing just in regards to that, because we had a presenter at the conference and was talking about something like that, but the difficulty is studies have shown if you're in entry-level positions, the best way to increase your income is to move between jobs. And so we tend to see a lot of jobs with those individuals, and so we're not sure what that means, at this point. Is that a good sign? Or if we want them on a career pathway, do they need to stay within that same business and moving on up? So we've got a long ways to go to figure that out, and tracking would be very helpful to do that.
So and a company like in Lincoln, Hy-Vee grocery chain out of Iowa, just does a superb job of working with young people. And I think what is I like to do when I'm there is to go to the management and say, thank you for doing this for the kids. And they say, somebody noticed. So I think people who are in positions like we are, that if you can acknowledge them, they may do more of it.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
Yeah.
Real quick, I've got a question, then I'm going to kind of as a follow-up on this. If you think about down the road how you're tracking data and cross-tracking, I think it could be really valuable to have a better understanding of when you think about post-high school experiences for individuals with disabilities, and you think about where they are, whether they're going into the workforce, whether they're going into it'd be nice to know what percentage of Nebraska students with disabilities who's been served in Nebraska schools are served by VR, that transition point occurs. So if you don't have that data down the road or thinking about it, it might be really valuable to see, what is that impact of transition from school service, so to speak, to VR service and support. Molly?
I just had one comment and then one suggestion. In the project search that they were mentioning a little bit early, there were some people from Cabela's and then some people from Children's Hospital, and they talked about inclusion and how that when the students came to work in the beginning, they thought, will they fit in? And then it became almost like a mentoring situation where the people that worked at Cabela's said that it really enhanced their own employees to be friendly and outgoing and inclusive. And the funniest part of the story was one of the people were saying they went in to check on the Project Search kids, and they didn't even realize who was a Project Search kid because the student had integrated so completely. And what I also liked about Project Search is that when they employ them, then they become a mentor for the next Project Search. And when we watched Tana, did you notice how confident she was in the end? When I saw her in person, I mean, there were people crying because she even spoke, and it was just very moving. So congratulations, and it was so wonderful to be part of that. The other is something related to the commissioner and our idea about our new integrated website. What I'm really hoping is that when VR becomes more part of the complexity in reality through our strategic plan, if somehow when we highlight best practices, we can also include VR in best practices. And for example, Tana's video might be a highlight that could be shown to share with other people about what people in VR really can do if you invest in them. And Felipe, he was so cute because I saw him too, and he said it was a great way to get the kids to work with her. So that was amazing. And the last thing I was going to say is, and this is a request, not an expectation, but I know that you're working on our monthly minutes that come out to all us board members. If it is possible to have a link to Facebook or Twitter, it'd be great if that video was part of, and then we could share it with people around our districts. And if you do that, please put the subtitles in. At the actual VR conference, some people can't hear, so it was nice to have the print.
Yeah, thank you. I should mention that they are subtitled on YouTube. So
Oh, good.
yeah, we didn't have the ability to do that here.
Are your YouTube videos connected to our website right now?
Well, they're on ours. You can connect via our website. So yeah.
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 Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Mark, as a fairly new board member, I was, it seems to me that we're finally realizing the important part you play in our mission, and whether that is with the youth or with getting people in careers as they get older. I think what you're doing is very important. I'm just pleased to see that we're pulling you more into the mission of the department and of the State Board of Education, because I'm not sure that we did that before. And you constitute about half of our staff, and and I'm learning things every day, about what you do, about having 10 or 11 different sites across the state and having satellite offices. And I think it's important that you can kind of continue to share with us that kind of information, and with the public that kind of information, because I'm not sure that a lot of people understand what an important part you are of the Department of Education. So, and I was really appreciative to see what you were doing at your conference, and I thought that was very well organized. And a lot of times you think, who are all these people? They're people that are working for you across the state, So it's really kind of, it was very enlightening, and I think what you do is, I think you're running a good organization, and I just commend you for your efforts. So thank you.
Thank you. If there's no other questions or comments, I think we probably will want maybe one or both of you back at some point, I know, to talk maybe in more depth about dyslexia and learning disabilities and understanding maybe a little bit even about the needs in the continuum, whether it be early identification, early childhood, throughout the continuum, and then even with the support in VR. So as we tackle some of the issues of, are we framing and providing the service and support for every student every day, including our students with special needs, how do we approach that, and what your expertise would be valued. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will now move on to item 10. And item 10 is our board reports and general discussions. And the first item is the meeting participation. You all have received your updated list of any requests for meeting participation. So is there a motion to approve the request for meeting participation?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none. Denise, call roll, please.
Glenn Flint.
Yes.
Lily Larson.
Yes.
Molly O'Halloran.
Yes.
John Wetzel.
Yes.
Patrick McPherson.
Yes.
Maureen Nichols.
Yes.
Rachel Wise.
Yes.
Patricia Tim.
Yes.
8 yes.
We also have in your board information the information on the travel expense report that's included. Also included is in the e-meetings is the information on the upcoming NASB meeting. And Lily is our delegate for that meeting, and so I think I'm going to turn to her. She's got just a couple of pieces to share with you about the upcoming NASB meeting and her role as delegate. So, Lily?
Appreciate the opportunity to be your delegate to that meeting. The meeting occurs over several days, October 19th to the 22nd. But what I'm asking for is for your endorsement for casting the ballots on the behalf of this board at the meeting on October 21st, 9 o'clock in the morning. At that time, as a delegate, I would be there to cast a ballot on your behalf for the next president-elect of NASBE for 2017. Secondly, I would be there voting to consider the amendments to the bylaws. And third, to consider any additions or changes to NASB's public education position. Sometimes some of these things do come up with some changes from what they have sent out to us, and I clearly would check in with those members of this board who are in attendance before I cast a ballot. So I would at least get the input from Patrick, from Molly, and any other who will be in attendance there, Rachel, of course. So believe me, I would seek out that so that you know, for example, what I right now am asking for your endorsement on is that there is a proposal that they say is for the betterment of the organization, and that is to change the titles of the president and president-elect of the board to be changed to chair and chair-elect, and for the title of the executive director then to become the president. So at this point, they say this proposal was recommended so that NASB's nomenclature for these positions reflects that which is generally used in the business world and is regarded as a change that will facilitate communication with NASB's business partners. And so they're highly recommending this change. And all it means is then going through the rules, regulations, changing what is currently president to the word chair, what is president-elect to chair-elect, and so on, executive director to be the president. At this point, I would appreciate any suggestions or a motion to approve these changes, giving me the authority to vote on your behalf.
Whether we do a motion or whether or not we just determine by consensus, since we have
Whatever
identified
you prefer.
Lily to be the delegate.
That's fine.
I think the main issue is if anyone, and you've had the information to review for a period of time, is there anything in that information or in the positions that you have questions about? Pat?
I just have the sense that, you know, I'm going to trust Lily to do what needs to be done and to gather the input as she needs it.
I did have the opportunity to do this last year, and I assure you that my alternate is Molly, and she was my alternate last year, and believe me, she was watching every minute.
Molly?
I did just want to share with Lily too is sometimes you don't have your mind made up on all the details till you hear the presentations. So it really, that's why we trust you to make a good vote.
And you nodded to me like, so I appreciate the fact that basically we were both there on behalf of the board. So the next item, which I would like your endorsement on, and maybe you saw it in your e-meetings information, the folks who are candidates for the president-elect, Mr. Kelly, and you can go back, but he has really an impressive resume. Wow. And he would be spectacular as the president-elect. And by the same token, in that same printout, is the person who would be the regional director, if I can get to that, Mr. Lentz Jr. He has not the extensive resume. He was probably very modest in what he presented to us, but these are the two official candidates on the ballot right now. Does that mean somebody else might step forward? Yes. I would be very surprised that somebody will, since they haven't already come forward. I think Rachel can address this because she's been in on that board of directors and understands how important the role is of these two folks. Pat?
What states are they from?
The president-elect nominee is from Mississippi.
Okay.
And the gentleman, Mr. Lentz, he's from our region, and frankly,
The name sounded familiar.
do you know? Does it even say where it just says he's from this region? Do I not see it?
send that out.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it either.
So his, as I said, was a very modest resume, I thought, but both these gentlemen are active with their state boards of education. There again, somebody else might come forward who I would say I will ask,
Missouri.
give me more information about this regional director, since this is so brief.
Thanks to Google Missouri. So
You
we
got
it
it?
covered.
He's
No,
from
he just-
Missouri?
Missouri.
Missouri, so
I should know
neighboring
that.
state.
I've met him before as well.
I think
Yeah.
I had met him, yeah.
And these folks will be at the meeting, believe me, they campaign, they go around, they shake hands, they are there to answer your questions and to be reassuring. So there once again, just with a general nod or something, that I get your approval to follow through, check on these folks, and to give them our support. Okay?
Think again.
Thank you
have
for
support?
letting
Thanks,
Molly
Lily.
and I do this. It is a pleasure to represent, and especially since Kansas is my home state.
Thanks,
So-
Lily.
Second home state.
Don Lynn, also, when before you leave, stop and see Don Lynn and or Laura. They've put together packets for those going to NASB with some information together for you. So stop to see them before you leave. And I think that wraps up 10. Item 11 is the information items and written reports that you have. I believe that moves us to item 12, which would be adjournment. A work session will be held on Thursday, November 3rd at 2 p.m. and a board meeting will be held on Friday, November 4th at 9 a.m. in this room. As a reminder, November 3rd, starting 11:30, we will be attending the Awards of Excellence Luncheon honoring the Teacher of the Year and the finalists for 2017. We also will be sending out some additional information about the schedule for committee meetings. If you have time requests as committee chair, please make sure you let the commissioner and myself know, or Don Lynn, so that we can get that schedule finalized for November. And then if you have topics going forward, as we balance time and as we balance some of the transition, again, we will try to build various topics for discussion into either work session or business meetings on Fridays when time allows. Any questions or comments? If not, thanks everybody.
I just have a comment for you. When we do start